Yeah, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to request those who are outside to try to come inside as soon as possible and take their seats. We are about to start in less than a minute. I just want people to take their seats. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our host and together with President Zuma in the house. Dr. Boesak following the President. Thank you. Yeah. I think we can all take a seat. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking at everyone who's here tonight, and I now believe that, indeed, the revolution will not be televised. We're going to do things a bit differently. And I'm going to suggest that before we say, Maibuye Africa. I propose that we begin our evening with some reflections about what happened to a donkey. A donkey that we can, for tonight, call Benji. We know that donkeys are portrayed in a variety of ways, including as symbols of humility, peace, service, as well as ignorance and foolishness. So very short reflection before we open with a prayer. So once upon a time, Mr. Krill, a farmer, it's called Mr. Krill, owned Benji the donkey. Mr. Krill treated Benji the donkey so cruelly, beating him up daily and chaining him to a barren tree. Benji the donkey endured years of abuse, associating the tree with pain and suffering. When Mr. Krill died, a kind neighbor took pity on Benji the donkey, unchained him and brought him to his farm, offering him food, shelter, and care. But the donkey, now free, refused to eat or rest in his new home. So one night, Benji broke free from the neighbor's barn and wandered back to the old tree where he used to get chained. There he stood trembling, refusing to leave the spot where he had suffered. The neighbor found Benji dead the next morning, still tied to the tree in spirit, though the chains were long gone. Coupled with that is that in 1828, the Cape Colony passed Ordinance 50. Theoretically, Ordinance 50 abolished all discriminatory restrictions on the Khoisans and made them legally equal to whites. However, as the late Prof. Sambitere Blanche says, far too late for the Khoisan. At that stage, their social structure and economic independence had already been destroyed. The Khoisan were too demoralized and had too negative a self-image to take advantage of their legal freedom. As a result, the majority opted to stay in their previous jobs with little improvement of their labor conditions and wages. The freedom granted to the Khoisans by Ordinance 50 was short-lived. It was taken away by the Masters and Servants Proclamation of 1841 and finally by the Masters and Servants Act of 1856. That's what happened. You may, if you want, you may say that the Khoisans GNU'd themselves. The two stories, though, one allegorical and one historical, remind us that it is possible for the oppressed to experience an irresistible and passionate attraction to their oppressor. And this usually happens when the oppressed remain unaware of the causes of their condition. So something had to be done to avoid the donkey situation and the Khoisan moment in post-apartheid South Africa. Odyssey of Liberation, a memoir of a rebel advocate, is therefore a timely intervention for the simple reason that the book comes out at a time of deep disenchantment in our country. It comes out at a time of theoretical and political paralysis, fragmented consciousness, and the death of the intellectual in our country. At a time when the country is sleepwalking, Muzi Sikhakhane, like a wounded bull, charges onto the scene with great intellectual force. With seismic eruption, this book bursts onto the scene to wake us up from slumber and social death. I'm certain that this book, like the golden glare of sunlight, is sure to resurrect us. It should inspire us to stand up and say, we are not donkeys. And with these words, I extend a revolutionary welcome to everyone who took their time to attend tonight's official launch. My name is Isaac Shai, and I've been requested by the Sikhakhane family to facilitate tonight's proceedings. I welcome all of you. House rules. We start with house rules. Number one, those who become ungovernable will be reconfigured or reshuffled from today's event. That's how we're going to do things, right? That's the first house rule. Number two, the Premier is laughing. Number two, for tonight, as you can see, this is a revolutionary house. And we know what happens to people who disrespect a revolutionary house. Number three, tonight no one will be impeached for raising a legitimate question or saying, "We trust in you, Advocate Sikhakhane." And neither will anyone be forced to resign from this gathering for behaving in a manner that seeks to advance the cause of African people. Number five, let us, to the extent possible, minimize any walkouts. See. No one is allowed to say "my foot" when making a contribution tonight. Rule number 7 is that the family and the publishers have graciously tried to avoid a neoliberal diet and instead opted for decolonial soul food, which will be served at 8 o'clock in the lobby, if I'm not mistaken. These are rules. Yes. And for those who believe that the secrets of the soul are revealed when wine is present, there is a cash bar which will open at 8. Those who don't drink are on their own. Chocho. Yes. There will be a photo session. Details will be communicated in due course. There will be a book sale after the program. The cartel has given us until 9 o'clock. We therefore need to move with great speed and precision. And after the speakers have spoken, we will have a panel discussion. This panel discussion will be hosted by Prof. Sipho Siape. And if he wants me to join him, I can, I will. On the basis of those rules and that introduction, I am going to ask Rev Mhlongo to come and officially open with a prayer. Thank you.
Shall we rise? I'm a dinosaur, you know. I got to take a time, you know, coming up here. Oh, God, now my Savior, I come to Him. Shall we be seated in the Name of the Lord, amen. Brothers and sisters, never be determined by your past, because the past will never take you anywhere. Remember that where you are today, you went through so many storms in life, but you are still surviving and you are there. And I'm saying to you, you persevere. Oh, I'm sorry. Into Zabelung. You know, you have to persevere in order to succeed. I'm just going to touch a bit of what I wanted to come and share with you because there's not much time. The master of ceremonies told us that we were going to get our meal at 8, and I could see that it's about to be 8 o'clock. So now I'm not going to labor you on what I wanted to say. But you see, I'm going to share with you what perseverance means. You know, perseverance of this young lady with his old man coming from a wedding. There was a storm that was coming. That is why I'm saying persevere in the face of a storm. You have passed through so many storms in your own lives, looking at you here, but I'm the dinosaur of the first order. I'm now 88 and a half, you know, but I'm going for 90, you know. So I am a dinosaur. But you know, a dinosaur is very important. That is where life started. Now, this young lady with the old man sitting next to him, to her, they were driving towards the storm, and you know, the little girl said, "Dad, can you see the storm is coming?" And the old man said, "Yes, my dear, drive on." And the young girl kept on driving, and the storm was coming towards them, and the little girl was shivering, and she said, "Dad, are you sure?" He said, "Carry on." They went into the storm. And there were these 26-wheelers, horse and trailers. I'm talking about the tankers. I'm talking about, you know, the ambulances with their lights on. And they were parked on the side of the road. And the little girl said, "Dad, are you sure?" He said, "Hey, man, drive on." And she drove on 2 k's out of the storm. The old man said, "Stop one side." And the old man said to him, "Come out, my dear." She went out. And they stood outside there and said, "What do you see there?" And the little girl said, "Dad, I see a storm." And the old man said, "Where are the 26-wheelers? Where are the horse and trailers? Where are all those people that were passed on the road? They are still in that storm." And brothers and sisters, when you go into a storm, don't just stay there, man. Move on. Like this old man, he said, carry on, move on. You know, I'm not going to bother you about the scriptures, but I just want to quote, you know, the book of Jeremiah, you know, the prophecy of Jeremiah, where chapter 29, I suppose, verse 11 to 14, where he talks about, "I know the plans that I have for you. The plans to prosper you, not to bring disaster into your life." So now I'm saying to you, present this morning, I'm going to bless you now. Just my presence here is blessings to you. And be blessed, you know, all of you, from whatever persuasion you come from, I'm part of you. And now I'm saying, when you meet these storms of life, maybe particularly in the world that we are living today, I am going to look at the divorces that are taking place. I'm looking at those people who lost their cars, people who have lost their houses. They've been repossessed. But I'm talking to somebody here, man. Yes, if your house has been repossessed. Don't worry, you're going to get a double-story house. God has something for you. Brothers and sisters, I don't want to bother you with quite a lot of things, but what I want to say to you is, each one of us here is blessed, blessed, blessed. And I bless all of you in the name of Christ. Amen. Right. I'm not going to bother you in any case. Mr. MC, where are you? No, I told you that I'm not going to take time. And I said, where is the man? They keep on showing me the man. He's supposed to be on the podium here. You forgot what you're supposed to be doing today. I don't know, Gramogolo.
No, all right.
Where is my kid? Oh. People will have to excuse me, man. I'm a dinosaur. I told you, I confessed.
Sorry. Yeah, just stop. Oh, yeah. Yeah, apply for reconfiguration. Sabongapa. Thank you very much. We appreciate the good words of the Most High. We are going to now request, just to accompany the good words, request Matula Sikhakhane to give us a musical rendition. Are you ready? Okay, let's give him a round. Let's give him a round. Thank you.
Sanibonani. Ninjani. Igama uMathula waKwaSikhakhane, and if you guys do know the song, please join me, and yeah, we can all just join in worship. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. We give you all the glory. We worship you, our Lord. You are well. This is my dumo. Sigunika langu udumo. Siyakudumisa. Ufanelwe udumo.
It is okay to shed a tear, nothing wrong. Some of us are hating, but today it's very, I'm going to church on Sunday. I'm going to church. That was a beautiful rendition too. That was beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, as we proceed, there is going to be, for those who have a program, there's going to be a slight change on the program in relation to President Zuma. But I will inform everyone as time goes on about that. In the meantime, before I call upon Nomfundo and Chase to come and do a welcome, I want to recognize a few people who have taken time to come and celebrate this moment. And the fact that I'm mentioning a few people, I will be recognizing everyone, and by the end of the evening, I would have recognized all of you with your names. But I also want to first recognize Sizndlovu as his wife. She's a towering figure and a firm hand that I believe has sustained SC throughout his Odyssey. A truly wonderful and loving person. And I think that calm, firm demeanor is what SC needed to complete his process so that he doesn't stray. As his kids are also here, as his sisters are also here, Auntie Vasizile, Auntie Dumile, Auntie Tuli. And we also have Ntate Simon Mavulo is also here. I believe we can vote and conclude everything. And the Premier has blessed us, and we're very grateful, Premier, for taking time to fix the province. And by coming to really grace this occasion, we are truly, truly, truly grateful. We are truly grateful. I will, as I proceed, continue to acknowledge all of you. I see Matthew Chaskalson is here. Welcome. And also, there's Stephen Badlender and the wife. Welcome. And I will be introducing all of you as time goes on. Thank you. And I'm going to call upon Nomfundo to come and really do a welcome. And she will be followed by Chase from the publishing company. And as from now, we're going to be moving with lightning speed so that we were able to finalize these proceedings by 9 o'clock. Welcome, my sister.
Good evening, Sanbonani, Dumelang, Molweni, Absheni, Goeienaand. A very heartfelt welcome to every single person in this room. Judges, presidents, politicians, colleagues, security guards, concierge, nurses, friends, family, and everyone in this room. You all represent the totality of Baba's love and regard to people, regardless of their race, their rank or class. As his family, we welcome you. It is truly an honor for us to be here with you tonight, gathered to celebrate the launch of a book that encapsulates the essence of vulnerability, courage, resilience, and unwavering dedication to true mental emancipation, human emancipation. This evening, we are not merely launching a book. We are paying tribute to remarkable individuals whose lives and actions have left an indelible mark on history. Unsung heroes. Their journeys, together with Baba's journey in the fight for freedom and justice. And so as we turn the pages of this extraordinary narrative, we are invited into the world of some uncomfortable truths, a debate about leadership earned versus leadership by appointment. We're invited into a world of courage personified. The story is a testament of the power of human spirit. It is more than a collection of words. It is a beacon of inspiration, a call to action, and a reminder of the sacrifices made in the name of freedom. It challenges us to reflect on our own lives and consider how we might contribute to the causes that matter to most of us. As we celebrate this momentous epoch, as the family, we invite you to be inspired to dare greatly. Brené Brown reaffirms that it's about courage. In a world where scarcity and shame dominate and feeling afraid has become second nature, vulnerability is submersive, rebellious. Putting ourselves out there means there's a far greater risk of feeling hurt or being hurt. Through this book, as the family, we invite you to lean in tonight, Be vulnerable, and again, dare greatly, because imagine one day standing outside of your own life, looking in and wondering, what would it be like if you had the courage to show up? I'd like to end with an excerpt from a speech by Theodore Roosevelt, which he spoke in 1910, I think it was in Paris. It goes, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man struggles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, and strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Nomfundo. Umuzi Gambube, uyanamkela nonke. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much, my sister. It's very clear that decoloniality is discussed every evening in the Sikhakhane house. I'm going to call upon Chase from Chase. There's a debate. Is it Zara or Shara? Welcome, my brother. Welcome. And just a few words of comfort. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Good evening, Sanibonani, Dumelang. You may answer back. you may respond. It really gives me great pleasure to share time and space with my luminaries, my heroes, people that my niece who's sitting with me, they says she knows them from TikTok and YouTube and so on. It really is a pleasure to have you share this wonderful moment with us. For me, being the publisher, you know, the publisher is like a midwife. I think that's probably the closest thing that we can put to express the experience that that I have had, or we have had as a team, as a publishing team, working with this family. I think it would be unfair to say this work is credited to one man. It's actually a family, it's a clan, it's a team of very, very competent and very passionate contributors, including Prof here. It's been amazing working with this team and discovering their energy, visiting, reading, writing, publishing is like traveling. So I've traveled to Bulwer, I've traveled to Mangwaneni, and I really have traveled in terms of reading, and I've met these very interesting people and understood what drives them, given what my brother Muzi has dished out. A very amazing story, a very amazing Odyssey, a very amazing journey, and an eye-opener for most of us. Actually, I think what was said earlier is apt, that this book comes at the right time. It comes at a time when people need answers, a time when, all these challenges that we face here as a nation, we need someone to break it down for us. And I think SC has done a great job in doing that. It's really been a pleasure to work on it. There have been tough moments and great moments, and all in all, it's been really a work that we are proud to present to you. I live in Botswana these days, and SC threatened me that if you don't come here today, then there will be trouble. So I made sure that I come here, and I arrived last night, and it's really a pleasure to share time and space with you once again. Thank you very much. I hope you will enjoy, and I hope everyone, well, I'm saying the obvious, I hope everyone takes a copy for people that are not here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Brother Chase. In front, I saw Ntate Tokyo Sowal. He was my hero when I was growing up. If you correct my English, you are siding with the colonizer. He still is. He still is my hero. We are able to speak in terms of the past and the present and the future, and I believe that he'll continue to be a hero. Welcome, welcome, Tate Sowal. I also see Mary Geraldine Fraser Mliketi in front. She's sitting right in front of me. Welcome, Mama. It's a pleasure to have you. Behind you is SC Mpofu. He's sitting behind you. Welcome, SC. I'm going to call upon the author, SC Sikhakhane, to come and introduce President Zuma. But before he stands up, just 3 sentences, and that will agree that no other man in this country generates fears and torments like him, like President Zuma. Just the mention of his name induces neurosis. And this is very obsessive and hysterical neurosis. But he's here today, and we are very proud that he's here today. We are very happy that you've blessed this occasion, President Zuma. Please do come.
Okay, I was ambushed about this. Ladies and gentlemen, I won't be able to, I wasn't supposed to speak, I won't be able to welcome you, but please feel free, feel happy. There are all sorts of people. President, I'm going to call upon now, Mayor Geraldine, my Premier, my colleagues, Prof, the judges. I don't mean you, Joe, I mean the judge next to you. My friends and colleagues, it's very difficult to mention that each one of you represent what I write about. Literally, if you read the book, you will see this is a book about everybody. And it's not perfect, because I'm not, but it's a book about imperfection, about contradictions in society. I see Brady, the judge himself from the African court. I see all sorts of people. But I'm asked to introduce a man who brought misery to my life. Misery to my life, because all my clients bring misery to my life. And no one is called a de Kock lawyer, but I'm called a Zuma lawyer. Because the man causes irrationality. For some reason, all revolutionaries cause irrationality. And some of them don't speak to each other, people I called in this room. They don't. That's why I said some of you that side and others. But I call him because I wanted to provoke some of you. Because the revolution for me is always that those who are oppressed cannot tolerate each other, but can tolerate the oppressor. And I want to force you for unity to be in the same room with people you dislike. Because the wars in the world are caused by our fear to confront things, because we comply, we conform, and there's death in the world, and the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael are still fighting. Thousands of years later, because we don't want truth. And everybody who's here, I call them, not because my book is perfect, precisely because it's imperfect, written by an imperfect person, like you. And I want to remind you how many black people you hate when you can shake the cock's hand. How many of you don't speak to each other in this room, but you speak to apartheid killers? And so I thought, let me force you to be in one room as we rethink what we've done, what we're about. But anyway, Mr. Zuma, I'm called a Zuma lawyer. And I wanted to introduce this man because I write about it in the book. There's actually part 3 in the book, which starts by the chapter called Zuma, the Man You Thought You Knew. And many think I'm writing about him because I don't know his faults. I do, just like I know your faults. And I call it that because I think I want us to rethink how we judge others and how we judge each other. Because I've been disappointed about justice, that we think it's the exclusive preserve of people we like, when actually it's the exclusive preserve precisely of those we don't like. Because our friends always get justice from us. So the test for justice is how we treat those we don't like, those we despise. And so I'm going to call the president to say a few words. I'm very grateful he came here. He's in the middle of a death in the family. He's going to a funeral of someone prominent in KZN, but he decided to come here today to greet us, and he leaves soon. And I appreciate the fact that you're here, and I've forgiven him for causing me trouble. Half of you here don't like me because of him. Ngathi kuye masiqala, hey, yazi msholozi, windaba uyahlupha. You cause trouble. And the trouble is because you are a mirror to most of us. And most people dislike you because they've forgotten their own crimes. They've forgotten their own faults. They've forgotten that they too, in fact, worse than you, have betrayed the cause. And most people who hate you, as I saw when I started representing you, it's people who've complied with capital, who've conformed with capital, who've been made and given shares in companies of our former colonizers, and they've become conformists. And I'm grateful that you came, and I've told people in that chapter, you're not a perfect man. No lawyer represents a perfect person. No one who's perfect walks into our chambers. You won't walk into my chambers to invite me when you get a Nobel Peace Prize. You will come in because you have trouble. And our job is to represent those you dislike. And this man called me in 2017 because everyone had left him, his comrades, and everybody. He was losing power. And my parents, my sisters know, we were taught not to look the other way when people need us, even if they are despised. And Tatem Ruth, lastly, you're sitting to my mentor, Tokyo. He taught me, I was his speech writer. But before I called the president, the priest talked about many things. I want to challenge all of you because you're going to be going to church. Why I represented this man and why I'm going to call him. You're going to go to church on the 16th, 17th, and 18th of April, Easter. And most of you will be celebrating the man who I'm sure his historicity we cannot doubt, even if you're not a Christian, he existed. Put on the cross next to him, a criminal, and on the left, another criminal. Freed is a thief whose name was called Jesus Barabbas. We are not told that his name was Jesus, but it was, take it from me. And from that day when the Jews called for Barabbas to be freed, the thief, we've been calling thieves to lead us from that day. We've been freeing Barabbas. We are led by thieves, we are led by conformists, we're led by people who've betrayed us. And that's what you will see. We've been freeing Barabbas every day to this day. So Lord, please grace us with your message so that we can release you. Just remember that there is something called attorney-client privilege. Others say you were arrested because I sent you to jail. I didn't tell you that there's something called contempt. Others think you taught me tricks of how to walk out. Another judge in the SCA said I'm corrupt because I'm representing you. He thinks you're correct. That judge, by the way, is a former apartheid prosecutor. I didn't care. And he has the nerve to judge you and me who've been oppressed by his ancestors. Well, you've caused me trouble, but I like it.
Thank you, Paradi. Thank you, Baba. Well, you will excuse me because I did not know who is here, who is not here. So I won't call even a single name. I'll just say, hi, everyone. Tokyo. Funa ngikhuluma inkinga zakho. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, my brother, my lawyer. I don't have one lawyer, of course. I've got quite a few. I'm still going to have more. But I'm still going to cause trouble more. But thank you very much, Director of the program. Okwami bekuzoba nje khona la just ngilalela ukuthi lensizwa ibhale kuba ngizokuthiwa ibhale incwadi. Mina kangikwazi ukubhala. Angikwazi nokufunda. Angazi lutho nje. Ngiyinto nje kaNkulunkulu. My good. Wonderful. Well, the reason why I came really was to be at this point where a book is being presented to the country, and I'm sure it will be read throughout the world. And I thought it is important to come and hear what is it that has been written by people who have gone through some experiences of dealing with people who are said to be prisoners or whatever in relation to that. Partly because I believe South Africa has a history of its own, not very much like many, for very serious reasons. We are the only country that started freedom fighting and was at the end of completing that process. We live in a country which has very unusual kind of behavior. But also tell a lot of stories in different ways. Very innocent people who have gone to prison, served many years, having committed no crime, except to say we want to be free in our country. Some died. Some stayed in prison for decades, like our leaders, who were our best leaders ever. Best gentlemen, if you wanted to. Lover of humanity. They had to stay in prison for many, many years. And it still continues, by the way, perhaps in a more modern way. So I thought I should. Ngizoceba wena ukuthi wenzani emnceleni naseSwazini naseSouth Africa. Don't talk. Don't look at me. Akusekho nengane nje ngifuna ukuphuza amanzi madoda ngimdala ngengaka. Yeheni webabo. Awuboni ke ngikuzwile uhlabela kamnandi ukuthi we are the right person. Ikhehla leli phuza kancane. Tokyo nations in South Africa. What a wonderful thing. It was only related to peace. Let us bring peace, understanding, working together, being together in our country. And I think it was a very wise thing from wise people, our leaders in particular. Sengimdala ntombazana sengoma njalo nje. Ngikhathazeki. Angiguli. I'm fresh. But what I think we did not realize was that freedom can have different shades and whatever. I did not know at the time that we'll come to a point where we would not be able to reach the final end. We ended up standing somewhere before finishing everything. That is what has caused the problem today. One of the issues is the economy, because the economy of the country remained not equal. The life remained not equal. And therefore, ended up during our freedom becoming prisoners. And that's why I've got lawyers. Got one here, got one here. My lawyers, they are many. Because I think I'm more of a wrongdoer. So, in the process of this, I think things moved away from where we thought we were moving. And it is a fact. Painful to us who lost our comrades, who had people staying in prison, our leaders. Babanjwa. Hey, wabanjwa. Ehamba nama comrade, manje 2 or 3. Wabanjwa amaphoyisa. Lo muntu omnyama lenomuntu omhlophe njalo. Ku driver umlungu. Angithi lo uphethe isikhwama, ufake intembi lapha phakathi esikhwameni. Uthi kulaba hamba nabo ngeke ngiboshwe mina ngiyaganga nina ngiyamshaya manje lo mlo uphethe into lapha angisazi ukuthi igama layo yini uyaziwa yena bathi laba mshaya. He actually took out something cishe ngayibiza ngegama ngifuna ukwenza isigebengu. Ilokhuzana uyashayisa lapho uvula umnyango wayilahla into iyaqhuma lento wayithi uyabona umlungu wayebona wathi ngeke ngisho ukuthi kwenzekani wabaleka wabile eSwazini lo engaboshwanga. Ngikhipha imfihlo zakho ngoba usabaleka kumina wena ngisakwazi nokuhlala lapha bengithi usuhlala eNgland kanti usahlala la. Good people, sorry, I'm sorry that I'm going to leave now, but thank you very much for coming in this number. For me, this says we are going to do something about ourselves and about our country. There is no equality in our country. Those who were suffering in the past, some are suffering more than they did before. And you can't say what we did even fighting for freedom, we have made it better. Only better to the few, not we, the majority. We still have a role to play. Let us read the book and think back and try to be what we are supposed to be. We have a capacity to do so as South Africans. I know we are all wonderful and will remain wonderful. And I'm thanking you, my brother, to be brave and tell the story. I heard Tokyo, you made a contribution here. Funa ukuyifunda indawo yakho ngibona ukuthi useleya nto wawiyo. Noma usushintshile mfana. Ngoba nibe nihambe nishintshe. Bakwethu, ngiyaxolisa kunomsindo ovele bengizele nje ukuzobona abafowethu nodadewethu nama-comrade nonke. Mina ngoqhubeka nje ngenze ezinye izinto nginethuse nangelinye la. Ngisazonethusa futhi. Ningacabanga ukuthi ngisele. Thusa lokwangempela impela. Niyangizwa? My babo. Siyabonga bandla, siyabonga.
Thank you, Msholos. I just want on behalf of my family to thank just everyone who made it here. But I thought I should just tell you because you are all mentioned in my book, all of you, either by name or categories of people. You are. Some of you are great revolutionaries, others are traitors, others no longer know what they are, and others are friends. But I just wanted to recognize a few people. This is the problem with this man. and this one. To me. And through them, I learned a couple of things. Matthew is here, was my mentor. I learned that you can be a great advocate and still be humble. And he is that personified. And there's Brady. You can be a revolutionary for a long time and still be a judge. And there are commanders of Umkhonto weSizwe, not Zuma's one now, the original one that I joined. And they are here, and they represent a part of my history. And those of you who are here and you don't talk to each other, it's because you're in my heart, all of you. It pains me that I can't bring you together. And there is Mampotelwa here that I know scolds me. There's Judge Malindi, John Allan. I won't disclose any secret of yours. They are safe with me. There's Stephen, there's Judge Malindi, Prof. By the way, see that man? Stand up, Rati. That's Soweto. When I say Soweto is my second home, that's where I lived in Soweto with this man. Thank you. And there's Mam Dimpo, special to me. She knows that many people don't know my special relationship with Bra Chris. Very like a brother. People say we look the same. And I sometimes see why she cries when we meet, because she thinks I look like her husband. But most, the comrades are here of the Communist Party. It's the last party I led, actually, in this province. No Palon and Kotent is here. Colleagues. There's Tokyo. That's my commander as well. But I ended up as his strategist and speechwriter. But there's friends here as well, and each one of you. But let me tell you, we're not always activists, and that's all we do. We live with people who are ordinary, that we live, we walk past. And those people, sometimes when you are at your lowest, are there. Well, you read in the book that I talk about all sorts of things, including how many of you have been sick? Right? When you're sick, you tell nurses that you will wash yourself until you can't. Where's Nest in Swallow? That nurse, in the book, I don't know how they found you, but Nest in Swallow is the nurse who prayed next to me the whole night thinking I was dying. So she's here. This story originates from my sisters, they're here, and my wife. These are my sisters. All of them, the three of them. No, that's my wife, not my sister. And that's the origin. That's where I come from and what we learn. And so what I try to do in the book is not, I'm no hero in the movie, in the book. It's a story of every black person, misunderstood, persecuted, told things, judged, doubted, Every professional here is doubted because they're black. And so I write this story because of the consistency of black suffering. Here is Nomandla. I don't know whether she's my sister or my niece, but we grew up together. And my wife, I write about her. Someone said they buy this book because of the tribute I paid to my wife. Well, everything is true there. Sometimes she thinks she's my mother. So, but each one of you were brought here. Comrade Dibu, yeah, Comrade Dibu, I write about her in the book, you'll see. Very difficult. This is one of my best friends. But we haven't seen each other for 10 years? Little, 5. Yeah, because it's difficult in this country because you have to move away from your friends because you're nursing other people. And we move away from comrades, from everybody, because we want white approval. We leave people we know, but we still shake de Kock's hand. And so it's been a journey in writing this book, because for me, I represented people, Mkhwebane, Zuma, and everybody, not because they're friends. No, we don't represent friends. You are not a doctor. We are not a doctor if all the people you see are those who are not sick. And we are not a lawyer if those you help are not the condemned. That's what a lawyer does. That's what a doctor does. And priests, you preach to the sinners. They are full of you in your churches. Ma'am Kwebane, thank you. And everybody who's here, each one of you, thank you very much. Steve, Nez, yeah, I told Nez that you married the wrong Jew. These two have no money, you know. Yeah, but, and so for me, I just thought, because I won't get the time, everybody who came here, I can't mention everyone. I just think you represent the entire spectrum that I wanted to deal with in the book. I was not writing a textbook, but I was trying to weave in subjects that Fanon, Bigo, Albert Memmi, and other decolonial intellectuals were trying to do, but they hardly reach a petrol attendant. Books that lawyers write are full of Latin and ordinary people cannot reach. And I'm happy that I've seen my book read by a petrol attendant, a security guard, a judge, an intellectual, a professor. Thank you guys for being here. I really, really appreciate each one of you. I didn't write this book to make money. Money means nothing to me. I wanted you to read it in perfections, but most of all, read what sustains me, which is my faith. My faith sustains me in persecution. And the reason I love people who are persecuted is because I was taught that the underdog is always alone. And so, side with the underdog, because the underdog is always alone. And that's what we were taught with my sisters at home. We don't love people because they are perfect. We love them because they're imperfect. We love them because they're imperfect. We help them because they're imperfect. Tateli Sufi, thank you. I think you and Soli, I left the party, but I'm still a communist. I thought the party was not too communist for me. But guys, thank you so much. My wife, please see her. She's pretty. Very Lastly, what I say in the book, that my great-grandfather had 9 wives. And yeah, I've not been able to meet his standard. I still have 1. I'm working hard. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, everyone. My son who was singing, I know me and him are in different ends of the height spectrum, but he's my son. Thank you.
Thank you so much, SC. Premier, do you want the right of reply? No. Okay. I'm saying from earlier on, Comrade Solima Paila, you don't want the right. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, that's fine. Thank you so much. We have a serious issue of time constraints. And therefore our program, I'm only a messenger. Our program is going to keep changing, so let's consider it as a program in flux. It's a very fluid program. I'm also requested to indicate that Commander Floyd Shibambo is here. Welcome, Commander. Equally, I'm also requested to, okay, this one is me. I've not requested. I see Comrade Ndlozi there also. Welcome, Comrade Ndlozi. Yes, Memkwebane Mazolman. And as time goes on, we'll continue to. But how can I forget my wife? She's here. How do I do that? My wife is here. She's sitting next to Medimpo. Like Essie did. Stand up also. Yes. Oh, that's great. I'm going to request Prof. Allan Boesak to come to the stage, and that's how the program changes slightly. And initially, I was going to read his CV, his biography, but because of time constraints, may I ask that tomorrow or later, when you get home, please Google him and read about him. A lot of interesting things you will discover. I'm not going to be able to go through, except through the entire CV, except that we all know that he is a great man, son of the soil, and the revolution sometimes vomits its children, and I cannot put it any higher than that. I'm going to call Reverend Dr. Allan Boesak to please come and grace us.
Yeah, I need this.
Thank you, Program Director. Good evening, my brothers and sisters. I am deeply grateful to share this moment with you, especially the author of this book, Advocate Sikhakhane, his wife, his family, all of the great people who have been mentioned tonight. I'm happy to be with you. Thank you for this invitation. I first thought, when I was asked to say something tonight at this wonderful launch with so many people, that I think if I don't watch myself, I might be thinking I'm speaking at a rally. Or even worse, that I might be in church, and a black preacher cannot have discipline. But I'll try my best. I first thought I should say something about the man, the book, and the moment, which is how I understand this book in all of those dimensions. But then when I got the invitation this morning, I saw that the author had put down a theme for tonight, which is reimagining the revolution. That's another enticement. But certainly, what I have to say about the book, you can all read in the foreword. It is really the right kind of book for the right kind of moment in the history of our country. We really have arrived at a particularly crucial and a particularly urgent and a particularly poignant moment of our history. And it is the kind of book that we need now, not just to read and forget, but to read and ponder and learn from. It is written with knowledge and with understanding and with wisdom and insight. And I say so in the foreword. It is also written with humility, but also with boldness and a directness that we need right now. The book is so entirely convincing, I think, my brothers and sisters and comrades and those who used to be comrades. The book is so important and entirely convincing because the man who wrote the book is so entirely authentic. His love for the law is deep, but his love for justice is deeper. His love for his people is deep, but his love for the Lord is deeper. And that is what gives such a depth to this book, with such honesty and clarity that he could muster to write it. He speaks to us as individuals because it is so intensely personal. It speaks to us as a people because it is so intensely public. It speaks to our past, it speaks to our present, it engages our vision for a future. And that is when we reach this moment that is so important. And that is why he thinks we should be considering the theme that he has given us, reimagining the revolution. So maybe we should begin by understanding what at least I now mean by revolution. I know that we are used to thinking about a revolution in the old Marxist sense, a kind of cataclysmic, violent moment in history in which one class abruptly replaces another. And for many cases, I should think that might still be valid. I would like to suggest, however, that we think of revolution in a different way, not just one brief moment, but an ongoing, open-ended process that stays with people because it is so rooted in the desires for freedom, in the longings for justice, in the determination to be liberated, and in that determination to hold on to our God-given dignity. That desire, those feelings, is what keep the revolution going and fresh. And even though sometimes it may be suppressed by the forces that are dominant at a particular moment, even so, it never dies. And so it rises again. And so when I think of our South African revolution, my mind goes back even before the white Christian invasion of 1652 to Admiral de Almeida when he tried to land in the Cape and was rebuffed and rebelled and killed by the forces of the Khoi. That is 1510. And I think of the 176 years of resistance and struggle that followed that. That is the ongoing, open-ended revolution. And I think if I just may grab a moment or two of history of the revolution started by the women of the Free State in 1913, who ran that revolution with such determination and such dignity that when Saul Plaatje thought back on it, he even if they should die there, that's what I am talking about, that revolution. That is still open-ended. And so I'm thinking of what followed in the 1920s. I'm thinking of the Defiance campaign of the 1950s. I'm thinking of 1960 in Sharpeville. I'm thinking of the 1976 Children's Revolution. And I'm thinking of the revolution of the United Democratic Front in the 1980s. That revolution is what I have in mind and what the author asked us to think about tonight. So we did have a revolution. There is no doubt that we had. And it was Albert Luthulu's revolution that meant, in his words, an ongoing, persistent and consistent non-violent militancy. It was also the kind of revolution that Martin Luther King, an ocean away, understood as a revolution of values, because you overturned not just systems, you laid claim to values that you want the new system to understand and embrace and build upon. And sometimes because of the intransigence of white rule, it was inevitable that the oppressed would engage in counter-violence as well. So that too is part of that revolution. But for me, the essence of it all is perhaps best captured by Steve Biko when he talks about a revolution's heart, and that is the selfless revolutionary themselves. Selfless. Because you do not think of yourself and your own interests, not even your own future. You think always within the context of the future for others that you are fighting for. And he can say that because he knew what was coming, that by 1976, and I was there, and I saw these young people and how they fought and what they fought for. And I still today, I marvel at that generation. They were 15 and 16 and 17 and 18 years old. They had their own dreams and their hopes and their aspirations. They captivated the hopes and the aspirations of their parents, who would never be able to get as far as they were academically and educationally, and yet invested everything in them. They had all of that. And yet, in those days when they were called upon, they were willing to put everything on the line, to sacrifice everything, not for themselves. Because nobody could in any way promise them that if you put your life on the line in June 1985, do not worry, because by December 1986, we will have broken apartheid. Nobody could ever make such a promise. It would have been empty, it would have been a lie. And they knew and they understood that, yet they did that because they did it not for themselves, but for the generation that came after them. I marvel at that. And whenever I talk to young people in our country today, I tell them, think about that, not to compare yourselves to that generation, but to know that is what is within you. That is your DNA. That's the measure that was put out, not just for yourself, but for young people across the globe. And that's what Biko meant by selfless revolutionaries. He also talked about selfless revolutionaries because he knew we were not simply fighting for ourselves and our own freedom. You were also fighting even for the freedom of the oppressor. And why? Because Biko also understood that we were not just fighting for ourselves, but to give South Africa and the world what he called a human face. That's the revolution we are talking about. And so, with that in mind, that human face that we still have not been able to see, not in this country, and certainly not in this world, still reaching out, hoping that we can restore our own humanity in the humanity of the other. You fight selflessly for a different kind of politics. And I've always been captivated by the way that giant intellectual and activist of the United States in the black community there, W.E.B. Du Bois, talked about politics. He was searching, he says, for a politics of honesty, a politics of decency, a politics of integrity, a politics of courage, and a politics of virtue. I do believe that we once had that. I also believe that we do not know anymore what that is. And that is our dilemma, that is our crisis, and that's why we are talking about reimagining the revolution. Because what we are told is a revolution is no revolution at all, in my view. We speak so easily of what is called the National Democratic Revolution. I do not think it is the revolution that we are told it is. Certainly not anymore. Having secret talks with the old white apartheid capitalist establishment without the consent and the support of the people is not a revolution. Making secret pacts with those old white elites with new liberal capitalism at its core, even knowing and understanding that that system is a disaster for people, especially the most vulnerable in the world, that it lives and thrives on selfishness and self-preservation and rapaciousness and hatred of the poor, and you do that, still that's not a revolution. Enjoying the pre-negotiated agreements that makes of a negotiation mere political theater, making the world believe that's what we are doing, that's not a revolution. Replacing one class of white apartheid-minded capitalists who have been robbing our people of our treasures for centuries with another class of people, only the faces and the color is now different, who are still robbing our people of our treasures and our future and our hope. That's not a revolution. And so we have to be clear what it is that we are reimagining, what it is that we want in reimagining also to reclaim, because God knows we need one right now, but a real one. But you don't have to invent it, because we have had it once. You only have to reimagine, and you only have to reclaim it. Talking about reimagining a revolution, which means that we are looking for that power which is not a search and a longing for power as power within itself, but rather, as M.M. Thomas of India describes it, the power as the vessel for the dignity of the people to be their own agents, to grant them and give them their agency so that they, in responsible fashion but determined fashion, can shape their own social history and take a hold of their own God-given destiny. That's the power I'm talking about. And that's the revolution we should be reimagining, and we should reclaim it. And that is what we fought for, and what so many died for. That is why we need this book. And that is why we need what the author and I have agreed upon, that we should work very hard so that our people can come together in what we call a popular people's assembly. If you want to reimagine the revolution, you cannot do it from the top, from on high, from behind closed doors and smoke-filled rooms. You have to do it from amongst the people. It has to grow organically from amongst the people. And in order to do that, we have to deliberately and designedly create the space for our people to do that. That's why we are working towards this People's Assembly. And we hope that we can come together, because not only does this present system have to be upturned, totally disrupted, stopped in its tracks, and imagined anew, also our vision has to be renewed, but because that's one of the difficulties that we have. We are plagued with politics without principle, policies without the intent to ever realize them, and leadership without vision. That's our difficulty. And so we need to talk about what that means. Coming together not just to see and analyze the crisis, but also to realize that we are the only ones who can turn this crisis into a moment of kairos and of opportunity, so that our people can have life again, our children can breathe again, and they can have hope again, which is what we are deprived of right now. We are a people throttled to death on the shards of broken glass made up of empty promises and betrayal. And that's a difficulty that we have to deal with. And that's why you need to reimagine and reclaim this revolution. And it is from this perspective that we must look at everything that we are trying to do today. And we need to ask ourselves, are we a people who believe that we still have the choices? One of the things about poverty is that you are deprived of any options whatsoever. One of the things of hopelessness is that you are deprived of options. One of the things of the desperation that I so often see in our young people today. One young man, when I was speaking at a gathering, said to me, "I don't know what you're talking about, Dr. Boesak, because I wake up in the morning with a feeling of desperate anger, and I go to bed at night with a feeling of desperate hopelessness." And I hear that. When I hear the young man, I spoke in Uppington, and they were bringing them from across the region, and he listened to me, and I came to the end of my address, and like a preacher, I was waxing, and I was getting excited, talking about how they must not give up their dreams and their hopes, and how there must ever be room for themselves and for what they want to invest in themselves. And he was looking at me and looking at me and looking at me, and at the end he said to me, "Can I ask a question?" I said, "Yes." He said to me, "Dr. Boesak, what for?" 18 years old. and he sees nothing, and all he can say is, what for? That is the crisis that we need to address. And also at the same time understand that the choice what to do in this crisis is really only up to us. So, what kind of country we want to be and what kind of people we want to be depends entirely on the choices that we make. Can we have and can we make the choice for non-racialism in this situation where we have been re-racialized, recategorized, in the situation of rising ethnic nationalisms, in a situation of rising white victimhood that has at its heart a desire to bring as much of apartheid back into our lives as possible. Even though the comedian Conrad Koch had defined our post-1994 situation as, for white people, he says, post-1994 is apartheid, but without the guilt. He may be more right than we are ready to admit. Can we choose for an economic policy that places people above profits? Can we choose for an education system that does not make the mediocre the measure, that is not satisfied with the lowest, but can open the door to our young people with their gifts and with their talents and with their determination and with their hard work to compete with the best in the world? Can we make that choice? Can we make a choice for righteous anger instead of just sitting back and letting the waves of desperation roll over us as if there is nothing that we can do? And in that righteous anger, also make the right choices as to how to channel that anger in creative ways to bring about the transformation that we so desperately need. Can we choose to come together as a people, as we once did, as we are able to charter a better way forward for this country and for our people, every single one of us? Can we recognize and can we reimagine, can we reclaim our revolution that has been hijacked and stolen and domesticated? We want that back, we need that back, and we must take it back. Reimagining the revolution is clearly also regaining our voice. Reimagining the revolution is reclaiming our right to the land. And I am so happy that that is once again at the center of the conversation, whether from the right or the left. But you must know the debate that's going on right now is in many ways a fake debate. We are not talking about returning the land or gaining the land for the original owners of this land. We cannot have that honest conversation until we have an honest conversation about Article 25 in our Constitution. And as long as that is not mentioned, the debate is not for real. And we need to understand that. And coming together and talking about that is what we must do. Imagining and reclaiming the revolution means that we are reclaiming our right to stand for the truth and to speak it as it is. Reimagining the revolution is reclaiming our right to rise again and make our presence felt in our country again. The book is now here. That spirit I am sensing across the country. I hope I can sense it in this room. People are ready to rise. I can feel it. Can you feel it? That's that song. What's that song? Is it Marvin Gaye? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? I can feel it. And if you can feel it, you should rise right now and claim it, because that is how you reimagine a revolution. Thank you. God bless you.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, there was a reason why I had to move from here so that I can sit there and face Dr. Boesak. The only thing is that I feel like I'm no longer speaking, but I'm breathing, because it's impossible to say anything after Dr. Boesak has spoken, particularly in this instance. Truer words have never been spoken. His characterization of the revolution that is needed yesterday, the fact that we don't have any choice but to make sure that things change, and when they change, it must be now. Listen to a mini Boesak. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I think a lot of things that you have spoken about, we will have about probably 30 minutes or so to unpack them. And I'm going to, at this point, call upon Prof. Siepe. I'm going to call upon Sikhakhane SC to come to the front. Prof. Siepe is going to engage Advocate Sikhakhane. I'll be here watching as Majinkilane. I'll also make a few contributions there and there. But as they are coming, there are other people that I keep acknowledging. I see my favorite lady, Ntsiki Mazwae. She's there. And Judge Malindi, we've acknowledged him. And there are those people from Pabasa. They are not people, they are employees of Pabasa who are very central to Pabasa's safety every single day. The employees there, they are here, and also colleagues from Pabasa, I see them, they are also here. We'll keep acknowledging you, colleagues. But for now, we get right into the meat. Dr. Boesak, you may also come and join Advocate Sikhakhane as Prof. Siepe takes over. But I'm also here. And the other thing that is going to, sorry. The other thing that is going to happen is that there are certain, some people who are here that I am going to be asking them certain questions as this discussion ensues. I can give you two.
was New York. We were sitting in the town. And the first speaker was going to be Jesse Jackson. And the second speaker was going to be Allan. And I knew that nobody speaks after Jesse Jackson. And I felt sorry for him. He had this big afro. We didn't remember him. But he took the stage and he spoke. And people cried. So the first time I heard somebody speaking of Jesse Jackson, and it made Americans cry. And I asked, why? He said, he reminds us of Martin Luther King. He was so powerful. But I'm in the presence of judges here, which helps a lot because if one has to follow it up, all you have to do is to say, I concur, and you keep quiet. But there are a few areas that I thought as a way of entry that are very important to mention. I first think if ever there's any success of the book, bringing us together in this session is one great success, other than the fact that the book is at the moment trending, and I hear that it's a bestseller. The second thing that I wanted to mention is something that the former President Jacob Zuma said. And I think there's a degree of sophistication in it. And one person who articulated that very well is Dalimpofu, SC. When he said, and it's a piece that needs to be written, to be read, when he said he has been in the struggle for the liberation of black people for the last 50 years. 33 years of that was spent in the ANC, 11 years in the EFF. Now he's with a new party. But what he was pointing out is that those years and years of contribution are things that you will not take away from him. There is a part of him that is ANC and will remain ANC. There is part of him that is EFF and will remain EFF. And there's part of him that I hope will be sustainable in the MK. But what is important about it is an appreciation that people choose the best vehicles to go somewhere. And it does not mean that we need to be fighting amongst each other. And this is what Advocate Sikhakhane was trying to say when he said he brought you all here. And there's no reason why we should be disliking each other. We should be turning to each other, not on each other. So if there's one achievement that has been made today, it is that. I also want to underscore one element about this book. I said it is the most potent antidote to white supremacy and also to the post-1994 neo-apartheid state. And we need to understand white supremacy as a thought system which afflicts both black and white, in that the black people are also the affirmers of white supremacy. And in a sense, as you read the book, Advocate Sikhakhane will tell you that as members of the bar, they sit and cringe as they see black people who are leaders of prostators coming with white lawyers and briefing white lawyers, and proudly so, because they don't believe in themselves. And what the book does is to try to deal with that aspect, the white supremacy, and the black people's collusion in the continuation and perpetuation of the oppression of black people. There are a few things that I would like to pose to my colleagues to respond to think about how do we move forward, but also to reflect on the story itself. But we need to thank Advocate Sikhakhane for having had the courage. Writing is an act of courage, and as you will realize that it requires intellectual courage, political courage, and emotional one. I can simply imagine what pain he must have gone through in reliving the experiences as a young person. But why the book is important at a personal level is simply, it speaks to the triumph of a human spirit against adversity. And it is a must read. But there's also another element why it's important. For too long, we have stories written by other people. Chinua Achebe put it very nicely when he says, until the lions have their historians, tales of the hunt shall always glorify the hunter. Let me just end. But let me try to underscore that sharply. If you take the book, The Long Walk to Freedom, you have people, it is a bestseller. And you have white people reading that book. And they love it. And they move from there and they hate black people. And they hate the ANC. It's because the book is written in such a way that it relieves. You can see Mandela there. And they can see Mandela and they can praise him. But they still go and hate black people. This book, let me quote one advocate. He says, this book forces you to pick a side. If still apathetic after reading it, you need urgent help. It is a book that says every judge, every advocate, every attorney, every lecturer, every law professor, every law student, every aspiring lawyer, every potential litigation client, all these people should read this book, close quote. I agree with him to a point, but I'll say every black person must read this book. Or let me put it differently, you must read this book before you die. And one last point I want to put about this book, and the professor here, although he doesn't like being called a professor, said that you must say that. And this is, Frantz Fanon talks about that each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it. But what Advocate Sikhakhane has done, he has not only asked this generation to discover its mission, he has imposed the mission. The mission is about total liberation of African people. And it has to be radical, because if it is not radical, then you suffer from what King called the tranquilizing pill of gradualism, that it takes time. 30 years is too long. So I think we should actually thank him for having had the courage to write this book and put it together. And also, I also think we should thank the family. And I'm glad that he does say, I dedicate this book to every child and adult born into the margins of the human condition and whose lives are a perpetual struggle and who are often dehumanized as if they are not worthy of inhabiting the earth. That is what the book is dedicated to. And of course, it's dedicated also to the family, the sisters, but also I found this very touching because we often don't say this enough. It says, to a wife who has been an integral part of the journey, enduring, nurturing, and uplifting, she refrains from lamenting or resenting her union with a man whose existence perennially flirts with turmoil. And anybody who knows him, he always flirts with turmoil. But for that, we are also glad that that turmoil somehow gives a new awakening. Now, there are a few issues that I wanted to ask you guys to respond to as a way of reflecting on the book. One is the issue of mental slavery, which comes out very strongly in the book. And the way one person who put it very nicely was Carter Goodwin Woodson, who said, when you control a man's thinking, you do not have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He'll go without being told. In fact, if there's no back door, he'll cut one for his special benefit. His education makes it necessary, unquote. Now, Professor here, how do you think we can start with at least our education system in terms of addressing this? And after this, I'd like to have Dr. Boesak to touch on that. Then Muzi will come in.
What is the question?
Oh, the question. We have people who have been so miseducated. The challenge is, how do we begin to address that as a people? And it is something that Advocate Sikhakhane raises very sharply about the whiteness that permeates every aspect of our lives, which is what gives us so much a problem in torture.
Thank you. I think this is it audible? No, am I audible? Oh, thank you very much. In the book written by Steve Biko, I write what I like. He says that a people without, or something at least akin to a people without a knowledge of their history, is like a vehicle without an engine. Now, I've always personally insisted that it does not matter how much you want to decolonize. There are certain preconditions to us doing that. And one of the first fundamental preconditions is that you've got to know your history. You've got to know your history. We've got to go back. But you see, the problem is that when we say we've got to go back and excavate our history, the problem is that people then tend to think that we say we want to live like how our great-grandfathers and so forth lived. No, we've got to go back to land and not to dwell. And that is also what Amilcar Cabral talks about when he talks about re-Africanization, for instance. He is not saying, he's saying take the best of what you have, because ultimately it is about the future. So for me, fundamentally, Prof, is about knowing your history, for the simple reason also that, we read about Aristotle, we read about Socrates, a lot of us can tell you what, in fact, who comes first. They can tell you that, okay, firstly it is Socrates, then it's followed by Plato, then by Aristotle, and so forth, etc., etc. We get to know all this, but nothing about history. I mean, even the most learned of our intellectuals would ask a question: do African people have a philosophy?
Yeah.
A very problematic question in itself, which exposes the fact that we do not take our history seriously. One of the most interesting books, obviously, it's Chancellor Williams, I think, Chancellor Williams, the destruction of African civilization. You know, we need to actually make reading African history, knowing African history fashionable, because it is through doing that that we can then be able to come back and say, no, actually, liberal constitutionalism is quite new. It is not transhistorical. It has not always been there, and it is not going to be there for eternity. So in doing that, we are able to historicize a lot of things. We're able to historicize and say, okay, if a situation is like this, if we have this moment, if we read properly, our history properly, then it follows that there is a difference between liberalism and democracy. But for you to be able to make that distinction, you've got to go back, you've got to know your history. You've got to know that there's a difference between liberalism and capitalism, for instance, that those can be historicized, etc. So for me, Prof, I'm a great believer that without knowledge of history, you are not going to be able to move forward. But at least to the extent that you are able to move forward, I think you are going to move forward to a wrong direction. So in conclusion, the future past, it's important.
Okay. Dr. Boesak, the advocate says that one of the challenges that we have is that we have been crippled, or our capacity to envision a different future and a different reality has been crippled. And what antidote beyond what Muzi is giving would you think of immediately?
Thank you. I will be very quick. When I understood for the first time Biko correctly, to latch on to what has been said, when he said that the most potent weapon in the hand of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. That is where we have to start. Now, that is not something that is limited to a school or a university. That is something a parent can do. We can teach our children, and we get our capacity to understand, or to make our children understand what a gift it is to have a mind, and what a curse it is to have that mind captured by those who oppress you. In high school, I was very fortunate to have had a history teacher who would take, I will still remember, it was such a thick, blue-covered book, Die Geskiedenis van Suid-Afrika. I can't even remember who wrote the thing. And Mr. Drummond would give the lesson in class, and then he would close the book, and then he would say, that is what the book says. That is what they want me to tell you. Now, if you want to know what really happened, please come this afternoon and we can talk about that. That blew my mind, and it opened it, and it shows you what a teacher, even with the confines of an apartheid gutter education, can do. Yeah. And so it helped me to understand these things. And so I think this is where we have to begin. And if the educational system that we have right now prohibits us from doing that, then you go around it and you find ways of teaching our children differently. And we have to do that at every level, in every discipline, because everything depends on how independent our thinking can be, how creative, how imaginative our thinking can be. But we have to break the hold of this colonial mindset that we have been living with for almost 4 centuries now, and up to this day we still have not broken it. Yeah. And in order to do that, you really have to have I don't want to overwork the word, but a revolution in your own mind. And everybody can do that. You don't have to wait for a teacher. You certainly do not have to wait for a preacher, not the way some preachers are preaching these days. And you can do it yourself, and we have to, but we have to break it.
Yeah. Audre Lorde says, the master's tools will not destroy the master's house. And in his writing, Sikhakhane says, although the biggest impediments of the liberation of black people are historically distorted wealth patterns skewed in favor of the white race, it is also the internalization of their inferiority that perpetuates the status quo even further. I know Muzi want to respond to that quickly, but Professor Shai says I must actually put this question to one, Tokyo Sikhakhane, two, to Dalim Bofu. There are two issues here. One is that the biggest impediments of the liberation of black people are historically distorted wealth patterns skewed in favor of the white race. It is also the internalization of the inferiority that perpetuates the status quo even further. So there are two elements there. One is the skewed patterns. And the reason why I'm asking Tokyo Sikhakhane as a former premier is deliberate, because it is the people in government who patterns of even briefing works against the possibility. And for as long as being black means being poor, you will never, or also being landless, being hopeless, you have no chance of addressing white supremacy. So, Professor Tokyo Sikhakhane, would you hazard a response to Muzi's provocation? I'm saying this because he says he was your strategist and a speechwriter. You are sufficiently implicated.
Can I just use this mic?
Yeah.
And just to take the privilege of being in charge, I'm going to ask that everyone who speaks after this just be extremely brief, because we are about to be chased out of the venue.
Well, I suspect the call for brevity refers to me. I came here for two primary reasons. One is to buy the book. And secondly,
The weaponization.
No, he's saying that
as they had said, there is food.
after.
But the food for thought that is required here is testing. The night is short now, and I think there is fatigue as well. I just want to give you a light-hearted one, but it's a very fundamental thing, which was uttered by Madiba soon after our release. It's something that has stayed in my mind for this long. In his own Madiba way, he tells of a story of a village which was haunted by ghosts. And he said, the village said it, we must trek out of this village and leave the ghosts behind. In the Mandela voice, he says, they packed all their belongings on the back of a wagon pulled by oxen. And they climbed at the back, all of them, and started to trek. But outside the village gate was sitting an old man with a straw hat. Keep this story in mind. As the wagon was pulling out, he asked, "Where are you going?" And before the villagers could ask to answer, a voice came from the back of the wagon. "We are trekking." Those were the ghosts. Madiba says, solve your problems. Because if you try to run your ghosts for you, it doesn't matter where you go. When you stop, they stop. When you go, they follow you. The test of what is said today around what we are confronting, what we are facing, will be answered in the book, because I'm inspired to write this time. Just to give you a taste, there's a chapter called "Some Amongst Us." It's a phrase that was popularized by Stalin, a Georgian who became the leader of the Soviet Union, where Zuma is party school. At a meeting of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, or to the region, everybody clears out who he is referring to. Your family, your community, your party, your nation is divided right down the middle, because people would want to know.
And Doctor and SC. Yeah. Yeah. No, look, you're quite right. I don't think there's much to add really after what Dr. Boesak has put out here. But let me answer your question, at least from my perspective, in relation to some of the thought-provoking issues that Muzi raises in this book. About the black condition. You see, the issue of power is really at the root of the black condition. The white supremacy and all these things is not a matter of pigmentation. It's a matter of power, particularly economic power. This thing called colonization. To colonize means to take somebody's land, right? And make it your own. And call it a colony. And that is what has afflicted us, not just as South Africans, but particularly as Africans. And so when we talk about the call for unity that Muzi refers to, and I'll take you to a passage where he talks about this idea of defying the divisions. That is at the heart of the issue. Now, if you don't address that and have democracy, kumbaya, let's all vote and be merry, that's not going to take us anywhere. So I think that is what is at the heart of a society that produces a Muzi Sikhakhane. Somebody who is able to defy the social pressures of white supremacy and forever seeking white approval. It's not easy. It's dangerous. It can, affect your family, as he says, but it has to be done. Those are the kinds of sacrifices that have to be done. When I hear Dr. Boesak speaking, I was reminded of the early 80s where I could see that some of my people from the 80s are not here because they would have said Boesak, Boesak, Boesak when he takes us to the higher plane. But that is the tool that the Allan Boesaks of this world have brought and which we have forgotten. You know, when we talk about this thing of unity, Prof, you refer to my paper, which I wrote about defying the T-shirt, as it were. Because what is that nonsense, by the way? What is that? The T-shirt and the political party. What is a political party, actually? What is that? What does that got to do with the revolution of all the people? It must surely be just a tool which you can dispense with it whenever it's at your own convenience, but not worship it to the detriment of the actual revolution reimagined. Now, so those are the bigger questions. So the issue of unity, for me, is at the center of this. Unifying us as the oppressed and making sure that collectively we overcome our condition. You know, there is no revolution that can ever be won without unity. There's no army. I mean, imagine if you have an army and then it has 25 factions. How is it ever going to win any war? It will never. They'll just start annihilating each other. So whether you are a Marxist or, you know, Marxist-Leninist like me, you then you must believe in the Communist Manifesto, if Solomon Paila is still here. And what does that document say? Workers of the world, what? Unite. Oh, there's at least a Marxist-Leninist. Yeah, oh, there he is. Yes. Viva Comrade Soli. Yeah. You have nothing to lose but your chains. Now, that was said in the 19th century. And as Allan Boesak is saying, you take the revolution to their period. What did they say? Apartheid divides, UDF unites. And that's how we overcame the apartheid regime at that level. So unless we learn that lesson, and that's why I say, for me, to answer your call, Dr. Boesak, the convention that you are imagining, which is better than the so-called national dialogue nonsense that is being spoken about. The convention must address those questions. And deeply so, honestly, we must close the door, box each other, and get out there. As I say, we have to unite our people, whether they like it or not. Kicking and screaming, we take them through that path because there's no other alternative. If you allow me, oh, well, you don't have to allow me because you're busy, so I'll take advantage. Yeah, if you allow me, I just want to read this passage from Muzi's book, which encapsulates some of this. It's on page 49. He says, although I aligned with the ANC and its non-racialist politics deep in my heart, Black consciousness and Pan-Africanism remain my orientation, shaping much of my approach towards politics to this day. As can be gleaned from my analysis of the race question, my love for fellow human beings attracted me to the concept of non-racialism. However, my observation of power dynamics and socio-economic relations between black and white people makes me skeptical about the version of non-racialism espoused by the ANC. I view it with suspicion, believing it resulted from the infiltration by white activists from the Congress of Democrats to white communists and the Indian Congresses. Now, that is an activist from my generation speaking, who comes from the UDF Unites kind of approach to the solution. And so what we need really is this mental, get out of our lexicon, this mentality of being pigeonholed by the enemy, and the enemy dictating how we must fight them and telling us exactly, no, you can only do it like this, you can do it every 5 years, you can do it every 2.5 years, and so on, according to our rules. There's no enemy that's going to teach you how to fight them successfully. The last point is about the lawyering thing. What Muzi and JZ and all these people who are speaking here are saying is that justice, this thing called justice itself, you don't have to have an LLB and all these things. The idea of representing the poorest of the poor is itself going to attract fierce criticism, hatred, sometimes even death. But that has to be done. The dialectic between the hatred that you generate through the love for your people is something natural. And many of our heroes and heroines have gone through that path. So to the lawyers who are in the room, you are not a lawyer if you do not do what Muzi says in the book, which is that you must be able to stand for the most despised. The people who need lawyers is not the Pope, it's the scoundrel and the scum of the earth, what Chaskalson said in one judgment, the worst among us. Those are the people who need justice. And if a lawyer does not stand up to that, then they're not worth being called a lawyer. Thank you.
Yeah. Just to close from my part, it will be a disservice to the book if one does not unpack or raise the issue of the tools of oppression. One is the way the media has been weaponized against some people. That's the first one. The second is the weaponization of the NPA. The third one is the weaponization of the judiciary. And Muzi deals with that. A good example of the weaponization of the NPA and the media working together is the case of Duduzane Zuma, who was presented as a fugitive from justice. And when the young man came to bury his brother, he was manacled to the court. After he had been denigrated, and when the matter went to court, there was no case. And as if it was not enough, the NPA decided to start another case. And even that one collapsed because there was never a case. But you have people who can hide money and can call another president. And you can have people tortured. You can have people kidnapped. You have SARS saying, no, the money was not declared. And then you have a former president, Thabo Mbeki, saying, when you guys vote this way, are you suggesting to us that you know that the president has something to hide? And here you have luminaries in law, former Chief Justice, saying there is a case to answer. And the NPA is unable to move. So you have that. Then you have the court, where a case is debated, and all the black lawyers who are there are busy talking about, and the judges, debate is about sufficient evidence or prima facie evidence. It takes a white judge to say, but let's talk about the real thing here. For 2 years, the matter was not reported. We know as a matter of fact that the money was there in the mattress. And if you talk about somebody who claims to be a businessman, the person will have put that money in the bank. But this is now what you see, daylight, the weaponization of the judiciary. You also have the men saying, no, but I'm in a business of selling cattle. Instead of being a president, then you get surprised when he gets shocked about the status of Johannesburg. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Very few people are brave to say what they believe in, whether true or not. But I would, no, I'm saying that you are a brave man. Don't be afraid of being brave. Yes, colleagues, we are now approaching the end, almost. In fact, we are almost at the end now. SC is going to say something briefly for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. After that, I'm going to call upon Auntie Basi to come and close for us. And Matula must also come closer and also help Auntie in closing. Okay, just for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So prepare yourself. And from my side, this is you hearing me for the last time tonight. I thank you very much. I felt the love, and please do receive my love. Thank you so much.
When Reverend Allan Boesak read my book and graciously decided that he would write the foreword, he then asked me the question about what's in the epilogue. So what? We spoke about it. So what do we do? And he asked me if I would take the challenge. What are we to do? It's one thing to lay bare the state of our country, but what do we do? And I'm not going to address the issues that I've addressed in the book, Prof, because I think they are there to read, and I do them not because they are correct and there are no alternative views. I just don't think it's worth writing a book if you're not going to be honest. So those of you who are offended by things I write, I'm sorry. I won't change them. Write another book, tell your truth, but I had to tell mine, and that's it. But my answer to Allan Boesak was, we don't have money, both of us, nothing. But we're going to go from village to village, our own costs, to discuss what we are discussing today until we first called it the Black Convention, but we call it the People's Convention. Dr. Allan Boesak and I, with no help from the Oppenheimers or Ruperts, with no help from the CIA funders, alone, the two of us with those who want to join us, are going to start with the churches, the communities, the villages, the townships, to Khayelitsha, to Wamashu, to Kiani, and everywhere, to our churches, to go and speak to our people who've been spiritually destroyed. At the risk of all that we will risk, we're going to go from community to community to speak about non-racialism, the real one. We're going to call the People's Convention so that we sit and talk and move on and create for this country, for the people of God, for the people who are here, a situation where they can call freedom, liberation. The fact that, Martin Luther King tells us this, and I say it in the book, if you've not discovered what you can die for, you're not fit to live. And the two of us have decided, after he challenged me about my epilogue, it's going to be our last battle. We're going to die doing it. We're going to go from community to community until we have the convention, both of us. And we will have it, whether you like it or not. Our people are going to be liberated. And I'm going to ask my sister, my sister will close. And most of them, they're like my mother. And it's because this story I tell is authentic. The sister who's going to speak is the one who drove around looking for my body. So if you think that story is a movie, well, she's here. She walked around in 1987 looking for my body, not for me. Well, she found me alive. And so that's what Dr. Boesak and I have decided. We're going to relieve that danger. We're going to relieve that risk. Arthur and I have already been offered money. 50 million for him, 50 million for me. We refused it. We've met our killers in Houghton. We've met people, Arthur and I have met people who were given more than, well, I won't say how many millions, hundreds of millions, for me and him. We've met them. And so we know the risk we're taking. We know the risk we're taking. You will read in the book that I harbored, my sister knows this, I harbored a dream when I was young that I would die fighting the police. Because at least if I died fighting the police, the Boer and Chris and others would come back to the country and talk. It's a weird, weird ambition by a teenager, but it was my ambition. Died. Thank you. We will be coming to you. The two of us will be going every place. I will suspend my practice. He'll suspend his. And we've decided that the two of us are going to do that. Doc, are we?
Yes, sir, I confirm.
My sister? My sister can come and address you briefly and thank you. And Matula will give you a song. You want to come here, Sissy? Oh. This is my elder sister. When I was born, she was a teenager.
Yamangala, 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 ungenzela gongo kuhle. Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. I used to say so while I was still young, understanding that the men say ladies and gentlemen, so I must say gentlemen and ladies. I'll be short because I have just to give the closing part of it. Do you still remember yourself when were in your mother's womb? Not one of you remembers himself or herself. So if we don't remember ourselves in our mother's wombs, or in our father's sex. If we don't remember ourselves, then let's put everything to the Creator, to the Almighty, who knows everything about us. This evening was a very, very motivating and inspiring evening. Thank you to all people. Thank you to my little brother, because you have brought us here to say, we, the Mbube children, can do things. I would talk a lot about this, but time doesn't allow me. Therefore, after this evening session, let's go home, and before we sleep, we look into ourselves and we think about this. What is in this book? Decide. What are you going to do for your family? What are you going to do for the people you work with? What are you going to do for your community? What are you going to do for the whole world? If you decide that, then you know what you are going to do. You will be contributing a lot to the welfare of our people. To this book, which is the journey, a long journey. So I'm not going to be long. I'll just say, when we pray, I'll pray in isiZulu, but those that can join me can please join me. Because I'm sending all of you, thanking you and sending you, that when we come home, we think about what I have just said. We say, Nkulunkulu wokulunga nothando. Sibusize thina abantu baseMzansi neAfrika. Usize ukuba sihlale ekuthuleni kwakho. Nkosi, ngenze ngibe isandla sakho soxolo. Lapho kukhona inzondo, ngenze ngitshale uthando. Lapho kukhona ingxabano, ngenze ngitshale intethelelo. Lapho kukhona ukungezwani, ngenze ngitshale ukuzwana. Nkosi Nkulunkulu, ngenze ngibe isandla sakho soxolo. Ngenze ngingafuni ukuthandwa, kepha ukuthanda. Ngingafuni ukuzwelwa, kepha ukuzwela. Ngoba uma sipha, siyophiwa uNkulunkulu. Uma sithethelela, siyawuthethelelwa uNkulunkulu. Ekuzikhohlweni kwethu, siyawuthola uxolo olungenamkhawulo. Amen.
Sanbonani, futhi. I did have a lot prepared, but time is not on our side. It's a little past my bedtime as well. But before I sing what I want to sing, I want to read a quote that Baba put in his prologue from Margaret Walker for my people. It says, "Let a new earth rise, let another world be born. Let a bloody peace be written in the sky. Let a second generation full of courage issue forth. Let a people loving freedom come to growth. Let a beauty full of healing and a strength of final clenching be the pulsing in our spirits and our blood. Let the martial songs be written. Let the dirges disappear. Let a race of men now rise and take control." I think the next song I'm going to sing encompasses everything that Baba has written in this book and everything that we're all here for. So yeah, I'm just going to let it speak for itself. Old pirates, yes, they row by, sold out to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? All I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets? Whilst we stand aside and look. Some say it is just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing another song of freedom? All I ever have, redemption songs, liberation songs, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time.
How long shall they kill our prophets whilst we stand aside and look? Some say it is just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? All I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs, redemption songs.
I said I won't speak, but because I love you so much, I'm just gonna say something. I know that we were supposed to have had something at 8 to eat. However, it does appear that there were individuals who were part of us who decided that they are not going to be part of the discussions. They would rather be part of the food. Now, we will see what is there. However, the bar is still well stocked. That is not an issue. And those who would want to have SC sign their books, he will be available after that. But for tonight, African love, please be safe. So long. Thank you so much. Before we leave, you know, I am told that I forgot to say thank you so much to SMWX. In fact, it is the father who comes to me and say, you forgot to mention my son. Thank you so much, Sizwe. Thank you so much, Doc. Appreciate everything. Bye.
Should just say aye.